Welcome back to our series on how to make your social enterprise sustainable. I'm your host, Darrell Coleman, founder and CEO of DC Design, a social impact strategy and design consulting firm that helps other organizations create meaningful and lasting change. Today's episode is about how to find your early customers, and it is a follow-on from our previous episode, which was focused on the best business model for creating a sustainable social enterprise. So if you haven't seen that previous episode, go back and watch that one. Today we're focused on acquiring your first customers. When I think about building a new social enterprise, I think about the fundamental concepts that are baked into the process we teach at DC Design, design thinking. At the core of the design thinking process, a process that is focused on understanding the needs of the people that we're designing for, is a concept called empathy. Empathy is all about understanding the needs and perspectives of the people that you're serving to make sure that what it is that you're going to create is something that they absolutely love, that they absolutely need as you move forward with scaling it up and providing more of it for more people down the line. So whenever I think about finding your earliest customers, what I really want to do is situate your mind in the space of empathy. What are you doing when you're first launching a social enterprise? You're focusing on making sure that what you're going to provide, what you're going to create, is something that other people will love, something that they actually need, something that's actually going to help them move forward in life. And so the mindset that you really need to be in as you first launch is one of testing. You need to work with a small number of people to make sure that what it is that you're creating is something that really resonates with them. And so that lines up really well with what my advice for you would be about how to find your early customers. Let me run through a few examples of how I think this would apply, but the overall idea here for you to understand is that within that testing space, the best way for you to find your earliest customers is going to be by going through your network. More specifically, you're going to want to rely on word of mouth early on in order to get the people in the door that you need to actually work with to make sure that your idea can scale and impact more down the line. So how does this actually work? Well, let's imagine that you are running a sustainable restaurant that's replanting the world's forests. This is an example that I gave the other day, and I think I'll stick with those three examples to guide you through this one as well. So you're running a sustainable restaurant that's replanting the world's forests. You bring in customers, and your goal is to generate revenue from those customers. The excess revenue, the excess profit, I should say, that you generate, you use to plant trees in the forests around the world. And you're thinking, how do I get my first customers in the door? How do I really begin testing this with people? Well, in the earliest stage, again, you're not looking to have your fully established business, your fully established restaurant going. You need to be thinking, how can I test my ideas to start with? So you think the thing that you ultimately need to test are your recipes. You need to test to make sure that the food that you're actually offering is something that people are going to want to come back for over and over. After all, that is the core of what a restaurant should be providing. You may need to test elements of your environment or the ambiance that you want to create, maybe a theme for the restaurant that you're actually generating or creating in the first place. But those are all things that you can do before you've actually begun to run the restaurant itself, right? What you need to be doing instead is reaching out to individuals in your network and saying, hey, I've got some recipes that I want you to try. Please come in and I will provide them for you, and I want to get your really honest feedback. And you want to think about who's in your network. Get a wide swath of people with different tastes, people from different backgrounds, people from different ethnic groups, people who've had different culinary experiences. Bring those individuals in, allow them to sample the food that you're creating, to taste that food, maybe to pair some of those different dishes together so that you can nail down a menu that's actually going to bring people in over and over. One of the things to really recognize here is that the core of social impact is the impact that you're creating, but it's ultimately what you provide for the people that you are trying to serve. And in this case, in the restaurant case, you're providing a service to customers. So if you can't nail your recipe, it's going to be really hard for you to scale a restaurant that can replant the world's forests if people won't come back for the food that you're creating. So you start there. You start with word of mouth. You start specifically by reaching out to your own network to find people who can come in. And then what you can do from there is you can have the people that you've brought in refer someone in who you don't know as well. All the while, as these individuals come in and they test maybe your second round of dishes or your third round of dishes, as you're nailing down your menu and you're testing themes and you're testing other elements of your design, you're also collecting those names, maybe those email addresses and phone numbers, so that you can let people know when your business is going to launch in the first place. One of the things that's often overlooked by early entrepreneurs is the value of the list that they have, the value of the list that they are putting together. That list is the list of customers, the people who have tasted what you have to offer, and really more specifically, the people who even know that you exist. Because you have to recognize that early on, people aren't going to know that you exist because you're creating something new. They're not going to know that that service is available. And so you want to really rely on the people who do know that, and that is to go through your network. All right. Next up is, let's imagine that you are providing pre-K services to immigrant families. You're going to want to be in the same mindset. So before you launch your entire pre-K, or maybe even if you're in the midst of launching that pre-K, if you have something specific that you want to launch, you want to go through your network. Tell people, hey, this is a service that we're going to be providing. Tell the people who are currently in your pre-K or the people who you might think would be a good candidate for the pre-K that you're designing, and see what their reaction is, see what their response is. And then as you talk to individuals about that, tell them, hey, I want you to come in and test the different aspects of what I'm creating, which essentially means I want to offer these services directly to you at no charge to see if they are the things that are ultimately going to meet your needs. You do that, again, through word of mouth. For some of these businesses or business models, you want to think about who is it within your network who has connections to other individuals that you're trying to reach. Make sure that those people are aware of what it is that you are offering and what it is that you're building toward. All right, so you'll reach out to your initial contacts, and then you will ask those people who come in as well, hey, do you know other parents of young children who can come in and test these services, for example, or who can receive these services, who would be interested in these things? How could I change this? How could I adapt this? How could I make this better to meet your needs, right? So you want to bring those people in, and again, you want to be building your list so that whenever you're ready to launch that service, you have a group of people who can notify others about it, but who can also take advantage of what it is that you're creating. All right, and then the third example that I want to give is DC Design itself. I want to tell you a little bit about the story of how I built DC Design into what it is today. So as I was saying before, DC Design is a social impact strategy and design consulting firm. We work with governments, foundations, and nonprofits to advise them on how best to create the things that they're creating so that they truly impact the communities who need it most. So we've worked to redesign aspects of the criminal justice system and reduce the number of people going back to jail. We've worked to reduce housing insecurity and homelessness in communities of color across the country. We've worked to design apps that help immigrant families get parenting resources as well as other resources in a new country. And we've done all of that by using the sort of process that I'm talking to you about right now of really making sure we understand the people who are at the core of the need that we're trying to address. But when we rewind back, how did DC Design find its early customers? How did we really get started in this journey? It was exactly this method that I'm talking to you about. It was through word of mouth. It was through my network that I built this company to start with, by reaching out to friends and saying, hey, here's something that I'm thinking of offering. Here's something that I am offering. Is there anyone who you think would benefit from this service or this offering? So early on for me, I started off teaching design thinking, the method that I've been referring to here. And I sent that out to a number of my friends and I said, hey, I teach this methodology. Fortunately, I lived in the Bay Area at the time, and design thinking was something that people had heard about and wanted to learn about, but didn't know enough about just yet. So when I sent that out, not every one of my friends got back to me. In fact, most of them didn't, but two of my friends in particular that I can remember did get back to me. One of them brought me in to work with him on a number of design thinking engagements where I was really able to build my material and hone my craft and figure out the best way to teach these different elements of that process to people. And the other brought me into his organization, and I did year after year, I ran sessions there for different individuals, specifically executives from other countries, where I was able to teach this process to them. Those processes, those methods, taught me how to teach my process. They also allowed me to test my pricing and understand what I could charge for these services. I also then, when I wanted to jump from teaching design thinking to consulting, long-term consulting engagements, and I also made a shift from teaching anyone design thinking to explicitly and specifically only working on social impact issues, I let my network know that as well. So I told them, hey, network, friends, family, everyone that I know, this is what I'm doing now. Anyone that I would run into, I would say, well, I'm actually only doing social impact work now, and I'm looking to do more social impact consulting, also looking to teach design thinking in a social impact context. If you know of anyone who's looking for that, please let them know that I'm available for that work. And what happened was, not everyone got back to me, but one of my contacts had an inbound lead that came to them and said, hey, we're looking for someone who can really help out in the foster care space. And I ended up leading the Hack Foster Care Summit alongside a number of other really great organizations in the Bay Area, focused on redesigning and reimagining different aspects of the foster care system. So that event, which brought together over 300 people from government employees to social workers to foster youth and foster parents and philanthropists and nonprofits and tech, was a real catalyzing event that allowed me again to take a step further into this consulting space. The work that I did there then led to people seeing it and me getting picked up to come lead a session focused on criminal justice. Really, I was guiding a number of leaders in Santa Clara County on strategies for how to reduce recidivism. And that work there led to a long-term consulting contract where we went in and we spoke with people who were incarcerated, community-based organizations who serve individuals who are incarcerated, the sheriff, the DA, the public defender, all the people who are a part of the criminal justice system, to develop a 3-year strategy for reducing jail reentry for the county of Santa Clara and reducing the number of people who were in jail there as well. From there, my business has only grown. We've continued to work with governments all over the country, and I've told you about some of those spaces. Things focused on homelessness, things focused on reducing veteran suicide, things focused on all sorts of issues. But it all started with this method that I'm telling you about. Starting with word of mouth, starting with the people who are closest to you, letting them know about what you offer, testing out what you have to offer, and then from there, gradually moving forward. There are all sorts of methods, I should say, once you've gotten to that stage. Once you've done the word of mouth piece and that becomes a reliable engine for you, there are other ways of reaching out to people. But what I'm really focused on here in this video is how do you get your early customers, the early people that you're going to serve in the door as a social entrepreneur. And so that is the approach that you want to take. The last thing that I'll say is that if you really feel like as you're scaling up you need funding, you want to do a similar path to the one that I'm talking about here. Look for local sources, local individuals who you can speak to, or begin looking online for some of these early sort of crowdfunding methodologies that you might be able to use to infuse a little bit of cash into what you're doing. But once you get moving, the goal is to continue to build on top of what you have already. All right, so that's what I've got for you today. If this was helpful, please do like, follow, and subscribe. Especially hit the like button. That's really helpful for spreading this information to other individuals. If you know of someone who you think, hey, I know you're working on social ventures, I know you're looking to start something, send them this video. Hopefully it's helpful, and again, it's number 2 out of 5 in a series where I'm covering how to make a social enterprise sustainable. So I hope that you found this useful, and if you have any questions, please do leave those in the comments on the replay especially, and I will see you tomorrow with another episode of Social Impact Live. I'll see you then.